Hey everyone, it's Derek. This past Sunday, I chose to attend an Anglican church here in Southlake, Texas. It's actually the one right off Kimball. It's called St. Lawrence Anglican Church. I went there with three of my friends who were also going for a school assignment, though it was for the worship leader program instead. I want to start off by telling you a little bit about the Anglican Church because if you're anything like me, you don't really have any idea of what it was or what they believe or where they come from. And so this past Sunday was an absolute experience for me. A little bit about the Anglican Church. Currently, they have nearly 77 million members worldwide, which is a lot of people. It was founded in 1534 by King Henry's Act of Supremacy. So, it's almost 500 years old, and it it was a product of the Reformation, and it was the Anglican Church, actually, they consider themselves the middle ground between Catholicism and Protestantism. And I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the interview questions that I gave, and I think that you're going to see that in some of the answers that the senior pastor gave me. A couple other things. In the United States, Anglican is also referred to as Episcopalian, or the Episcopal Church. I'm not quite sure why. I haven't found out myself, but it is, as far as government, it is headed up ultimately by Jesus, but directly under that is the King or Queen of England, which currently is, I believe, Elizabeth II. And she is referred to as the Supreme Governor. And there's a dual leadership in the sense that the Archbishop of Canterbury also helps. He's regarded as the Primate of England, and that is currently Justin Welby. So, as far as my actual experience goes, it was very different for me. It was very traditional. All of the leadership there, they wore linen garments. They had the vests on. They carried around a chain with incense in it. Everything was it seemed formal, and there was a liturgy. There was we sang hymns. They read directly from Scripture. They had a little bit of a homily, so a little bit of a sermon, but it was mostly liturgy and repeating the creed. And ultimately, we ended the service with the Eucharist. So we celebrated the Lord's Supper, which I asked Father John Jordan, who is the rector or the senior pastor of the Anglican Church in Southlake, and he said that I asked him, "Do you celebrate the Eucharist every Sunday?" And he said, "We celebrate it every single day. 365 days a year, they have Mass, and they have chapel, and they celebrate the Eucharist because it is such a focal point in the Anglican denomination that it was a gift given by God, and therefore it should be celebrated," which I thought was fantastic. It was fun to take part in it and to have to go down and really engage with the communion, which is not something that I'm accustomed to. So it was a nice change of pace. I don't want to go too much into my interview because I tried this video earlier and I went way over time because I went too far into it. So I'm just going to hit on a couple of questions that help form the strategic or the government of the Anglican faith. So I asked him what doctrines and practices are essential and which are secondary, and he referred to the Chicago-Lambeth Quadrilateral. It was formed in 1885 or 1886, and then reformed in 1888. So almost 130 years ago or so. But the 4 points in the quadrilateral are the Holy Scriptures, the baptism and Eucharist, the creeds, specifically the Apostles' Creed and the Nicene Creed, and the apostolic ministry in the sense that bishops. And so he basically equated to this as these are the 4 things that if we had a reunion of the church, these are the four things that we cannot compromise on. And I think that it was very interesting that those were the things that they chose. And I told him that it's refreshing to speak with someone who's a part of a denomination that's so much older than anything that I grew up with, because they knew why they believed what they believed. They had answers for everything, and that was very refreshing to me. One more thing that I like to point out is I asked him who sets the strategic vision for your church and how do they do that, and he said that it is a dual role between the rector or the senior pastor, his job, and what they call the vestry, which is the lay people church leadership. So the church leadership the vestry works with the rector, who also answers to what they call the diocese. The diocese is a bishop over them, over all of the rectors in the area, and there's regional dioceses, and there is one in Fort Worth who is the diocese for North Texas, and he said there are 60 churches under his leadership. Altogether, there are 80 million churches worldwide that all have dioceses and rectors, and ultimately they all answer to the Archbishop of Canterbury and the Supreme Governor and Queen Elizabeth II. So, the rector himself, he's chosen by the vestry working with the bishop, the diocese, to put someone in place, and once he's in place, he has authority to make decisions, but they have elections in the church and whatnot. So altogether, that was my experience with the Anglican Church. I could go on a lot longer, but I have to cut it out now. So thank you for listening.